and I am from Texas State University pursuing a PhD. I'll get into a little bit more about me as it pertains to my project, but today I'm just grateful to be joining y'all for the Track Summit 2021. And today I'll be presenting from Brewer to Baker, learning about sustainability through transformative praxis. So I hope you enjoy. To understand why I chose the research I chose to do and to understand the ontology behind it, you have to get to know me a little bit better. So I was born and raised in Texas as a Latina by my single mother. I received my BS in agribusiness from Texas A&M in 2007. So I've always been interested in interdisciplinary studies and have had this fascination with food and the interaction that we have with it. So I left A&M and worked for the Extension Agency. I've worked for Texas Department of Agriculture, and so I've had the opportunity to work with many small food and beverage producers in the state, which I absolutely loved. Then I went into the tech industry as I was a young mother, married, and very involved in my community. But after just 5.5 years, I was burnt out. I was tired of climbing the ladder. It felt like I was on a hamster wheel. And so I really just wanted to get back to what it was I enjoyed studying. And I didn't have to think twice about it when my husband asked what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to go back to school and get my PhD so that I could teach. So along that line, I finished my MS in Sustainability Studies from Texas State in August of 2019 and went right into a PhD program studying geography also at Texas State. So now you know a little bit about me, and hopefully that will set the foreground for this project. So I have a fascination with the craft beer industry. I am a craft beer drinker. I enjoy fermented things, as do many other people in the world, right? And the brewing process, it makes a wonderful product, but it is a huge industrial process. And so it is estimated that an average annual global production of the largest byproduct creates 39 million tons of waste. And that is what's coming in the form of what we call BSG. BSG is brewer spent grain. And really, it's the wet grain after all of the sugars have been pulled out during the brewing process to make the beer. But what's left over is actually a high fiber, high protein, nutritional byproduct. And so it's industry standard today that it gets fed to livestock and chickens and things like that. But even less than 20 years ago, that wasn't even the case. And so I became fascinated with this upcycling process with BSG. What can be done to make an even higher value product from a waste stream? And since this is the largest one in the craft brewing industry, it is the area I wanted to look at for research. So there was a few studies done as far back as 2013, but more recently in 2016, that was really questioning what the opportunity was to use BSG to feed humans instead of animals. As most waste products have, there was a stigma attached to BSG that it is trash, right? Or it is waste. It should be fed to animals. But because of that high nutrition value, there seemed like there could be an opportunity to use it for feeding people instead. And this gets into a bunch of sustainability goals that we'll look at a little bit later. But the ultimate research questions for this project ended up becoming, can BSG from Central Texas breweries, because that's where I'm located, be repurposed into a baking mix for human consumption? And how does a person transform by participating in sustainable development activities within their own community? So the methodology primarily used was this transformative praxis approach. And I started a business plan, created a business, and then launched it with partner breweries in Central Texas so that we could test these two research questions. This visual is just to help kind of bring you along with me in this story. So we need partners, right? I don't brew beer, and even if I did, I couldn't brew enough beer for it to be a viable business to feed people. And we've kind of gone on this linear roadmap of how we can reuse BSG. So in the 1970s, large breweries like Anheuser-Busch, Miller's and Coors started reusing their BSG to feed anaerobic digesters during the oil embargo. However, those are very large companies with a lot of capital to invest. And so they're really the only ones that were able to kind of creatively use this waste stream until about 10, 15 years ago. And then we saw this movement as local municipalities and wastewater plants started charging for point source pollution. And because of that high nutrition value, it actually is not good for a water supply. And so we started seeing brewers pull this BSG out of the wastewater stream and sending it to farms, right? And so now we're here where I'm questioning, and some other people more recently, really in the last 3 years, have started wondering, how then can we use this to reach sustainability goal, UN sustainability goal number 2, which is zero hunger in the world, right? It's such a large waste stream, and there's so much of it that if we can come up with the right formula, it seems like this could be a way to get a high nutrition, low cost product out to hungry populations. And so the guiding principles of this project are just down here at the bottom: the UN Sustainable Development Goals, as I had mentioned, but also the EPA Sustainable Management of Food Recovery Hierarchy, which does say that feeding people is more sustainable than feeding animals. So to do this project, I looked at a lot of literature. Ultimately, this is an interdisciplinary study, but sustainability was the basis of it, right? And I'm not as much interested in the 3 pillars of people, profit, planet, but this assemblage thinking, that all of it comes together and forms networks and webs and a connectivity that is unique between the human and non-human interactors within a certain sphere, right? So in this sphere, the geographic region we're using is a 5-county radius, including those where San Antonio and Austin sit. And so this is a food insecure map that I created from the USDA Economic Research Service. And the different colors indicate a combination of whether this is a food insecure population because of low income and low accessibility, or if it's just low income, or if it's just low accessibility. But ultimately, I want you to see that within this 5-county radius, there's a large population of people that are considered food insecure and could benefit from having a abundant, nutritious food source, right? That typically is ready to eat, because that's just the way consumers are going these days. And Central Texas was a great way to study it also because it is booming with population growth. It is the 2nd fastest growing area in the country. And so we are going to continue to see more people come in, more businesses develop, and less land available for agriculture. Also was this idea of praxis, right? Learning by doing. And the reason I chose this is because in my degree program, I'm very much studying how we come to know things. And feminist theory seemed like a great place for me to start because of this double minority status I have. So just a little bit more about the transformative praxis. This project started because of a competition through Texas State University. And I didn't win that initial competition, but they held several more throughout the year. And the project itself ended up winning lots of awards and accolades. And this image here is actually from the one where I got the ultimate prize finally, and I had a undergraduate partner with me in it, but we ended up winning the Texas State Innovation Labs competition and participated at South by Southwest. And so that was a great learning opportunity for both of us. And we got to meet alumni and investors. And it was just a pragmatic approach to understanding how sustainability works in real time. And as I had mentioned before, I was interested in the networking, the assemblages of this. And so I walked away with exposure to many academic departments, some that are in administration. I got to meet several local businesses and formed a closer partnership with the breweries in our area. Okay, so this was a long ongoing project. It still continues today in some form, but by the end of the competition in May of 2019, we were able to say yes, that you can feed BSG to humans. And it was tested in a laboratory. It had shelf stability. We were able to package it well. We were able to show that we could make ready-eat foods out of it. We did cinnamon rolls and pretzels primarily. We reached a variable cost and overhead cost that was low enough for it to be profitable. We really took advantage of the cottage laws in Texas. And so my husband and I were able to bake directly out of our home. And so that was a low barrier to entry that just made this project able to really take off. Unfortunately, COVID-19 hit shortly after, and so that's kind of taken some steam out of our engine, as well as other competing priorities that I will talk about in a little bit. But overall, from a business standpoint, and if the BSG is viable for feeding to humans, the answer is yes. And then from a transformative praxis perspective, as I mentioned, there was tons of networking opportunities. They still pop up today. I'm talking to a venture capitalist out of Houston. We have ongoing discussions about opportunities to take this to scale, what all would be involved with that, as well as potential other sustainable business projects relating to water. So that's been a really great addition to my toolbox and my knowledge skill. I did learn also, though, that despite having an agribusiness background and understanding economics and being able to put a business plan together, that speaking finance is a whole other jargon. And so the inexperience, my age, I also think potentially my ethnicity and gender can contribute to the fact that I haven't received the proper funding to date to make this scale and really have an environmental impact, and the ability to hit my ultimate goal, which is to feed hungry people. So that's something that I continue to work on, and hopefully one day I will have overcome that as well. During the process, though, we did change the way that we do waste management at the bakery and thus in our household. We live just in the county, in Bexar County, and therefore we don't have a trash service. We have to pay for our own trash service. And because our street generates a little amount of waste per the waste management company's guidelines, they don't offer recycling on our street. So we wanted to make sure that as we were bringing in this additional food source that we were going to upcycle, that we weren't offsetting that by just throwing everything into the trash too. And so we started diverting our food waste from the landfill by implementing composting. And so there was leftover BSG that hadn't been processed for the baking process. It was going into the compost pile. But beyond that, our just general home food waste as well is now being composted and used in a garden that we planted in our yard as well. So in conclusion, it is possible to repurpose BSG into a baking mix for consumption. in Central Texas. As I had said before, scaling it is difficult. And that's really where there can be benefits to the environment and to people. So we continue to entertain the idea of getting other funding sources, either through grant opportunity or just being really picky about who we bring on as an investor, to make sure that we are able to keep kind of these informal B corporation ideas in mind as we're growing the business. But for my own personal growth and understanding of sustainability a lot more, I was able to make behavior changes. I was able to validate to myself and others that I can be a successful business owner. And capital funding is a tricky beast, but I will continue to, educate in that area as well. Because it is a praxis project, it is ongoing, right? I did launch a business. I have not closed the business officially. COVID-19, as I had said before, is impacting the production that we're able to do, but we still get requests every now and then. We're just not actively seeking out opportunity. And probably more competing are these other intersections in my life. I am now in a PhD program. I'm in my 3rd year, so I'll be having my comp exams in December. And ultimately, that's my goal, is to teach others about sustainability and new materialism and these other human geography theories and concepts that I've learned. And so, running the business myself is not the most important focus today. But we're always looking for opportunities that arise and present itself. As I had said earlier, there is an investor we're talking to in the Houston area, and he's in the process of trying to secure a World Food Bank contract. So if that goes through, then this business is turnkey now, and we have the business plan in place to be able to take this to a large industrial scale and start packaging this to not only feed people in our local community, but to also feed people around the world. And so institutional accounts are definitely where we would like to go with this business. This is just a brief summary of the awards and some media coverage that occurred during the active part of this research project. And so if you'd like to learn more about that, you can reach me at my email. I very greatly appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to come and just share a little bit about what we're working on at Texas State University. Thank you.